Good evening, you're watching Estuary News. Coming up, we head to Laceby, which wants to join in the In Bloom action. And we take a look at the new board game, which is likely to be in everyone's Christmas stocking this year in North East Lincolnshire. And tonight's guest is Tony Bramley, Chief Executive of Shoreline Housing Partnership. He's here to talk about the Grimsby high-rise flats 1 year on since the announcement they were to be demolished. Welcome to Estuary News. I'm Emma Lingard. Now it's time for the news headlines.
Humber there. The Humber Gateway Wind Farm has officially been opened by a government minister. Andrea Leadsom MP has been to Grimsby Docks to open the project and believes it shows the government's commitment to offshore wind.
We're already the world's #1 in offshore wind, and we fully intend to continue to support the renewable sector. However, there is a balance to be had between the costs of deployment coming down very rapidly and the cost to bill payers as a result of that going up more than they need to.
Well, the positives are the continuing support of the government for the offshore industry and the great opportunities that there are locally, particularly for our young people.
Officers are investigating following reports a man was seen committing an indecent act in a Hull park. The incident is said to have taken place between 5:40 and 5:50 p.m. on Monday the 28th of September in Bude Road Park. Anyone with information is asked to contact Humberside Police. Grimsby and Cleethorpes are firmly on the map with the launch of the latest Monopoly board game. Invited guests were able to get their hands on a copy as it hit the shops at a special launch in the town. Those featured on the board were delighted, including Reverend Canon Andrew Dodd from Grimsby Minster, who bagged the spot reserved for Mayfair.
Oh, it feels fantastic. It's really nice that people of Grimsby have gone and voted for us and that we're there as #1, so I'm really pleased about that. The previous parish used to be, had the Elephant and Castle, had the Old Kent Road in its parish, so we've moved literally 2 squares away, just past Go, in order to get to the top spot. Moving to Grimsby means that I've moved up the board.
And finally, the Minister for Culture and Creative Industries believes the local TV network, which includes channels like Estuary, is continuing to grow. Ed Vasey MP sees he's going to continue to help the network to expand.
I think people are hungry for local news, the kind of attention to stories that wouldn't necessarily get covered on the regional news, which spreads its net perhaps too widely. They've got Spectrum, they've got a slot on the programme guide. I continue to talk to the leaders of local television about what else we can do to support them as they grow. This is initially the first couple of years that local TV's got up and running, and I think once we've got a lot of stations established, we can look again and see what else we can do to help.
And that's all from me. Bye for now.
In Bloom has become something integral to the local area, with towns such as Cleethorpes and Immingham scooping gold awards. Now Laceby wants to get involved and has started organising its own entry into the floral contest, as we went to find out.
In Bloom started as a little bud in our area before growing into a huge local event, with many local communities taking part. Now another In Bloom seed has been planted, and this time it's in Laceby.
It really came from a community group that operates in the village, and people had just kept saying, you know, how nice this looks and how nice that looks in both Cleethorpes and the rural villages. And the idea was that we would give it a go and see if we could gather interest in the village. We put a newsletter out, and from that newsletter we now have got 4 more members, one of which is Ken, and for us that was nearly 100% response.
The In Bloom flower has blossomed in towns such as Cleethorpes in recent years, which led the gold rush, with Grimsby and Immingham also bringing the silverware to the local area, and Laceby wants to jump on the In Bloom bandwagon, inspiring people like Ken to get involved in the campaign.
I've seen the success in other villages in Waltham, particularly in Immingham and Cleethorpes and other places, and it really does have a fantastic effect on the community, not only making the place look better, it seems to improve the environment, house prices, everything really.
In more rural In Bloom participants like Haber and Caister, local churches have often got involved. Philip Stevens, rector of Laceby Church, says the involvement and goodwill In Bloom brings to the local community is a key reason the church will be getting involved in the competition.
It's a wonderful thing that unites the whole community, the businesses, the community organisations, the young people's groups. We've got a lot of organisations that meet in Laceby, and I'm sure lots of them will want to take part. I've watched all the pictures in the paper about Immingham and Haber Church has been very much involved, and Cleethorpes, and I think it'd be great for Laceby.
And despite the competition being a new experience for the organisers, they'll have the ambition and hope that they'll be adding to our area's tally of In Bloom golds.
Absolutely.
We'll be
no
up
point
there.
in going if you don't go for gold, is there?
No, that's right.
Yeah, but we have been sort of warned to settle for silver, maybe.
Oh, we were.
But we're not
Gold
settlers,
is
are
the
we?
thing.
And if there's a story you'd like us to look into, then you can contact the news team either through the Facebook or Twitter pages, or email news@estuary.tv or call 01472 315 553. So do let us know what's happening in your area. Well, still to come tonight, we take a look at the new board game, which is likely to be in everyone's Christmas stocking this year. And we'll have the latest in the local sports news. Now, a year ago, it was announced that the 6 high-rise flats in Grimsby, which have been a landmark for about 50 years, were to be demolished. Tenants were relocated, but the flats still stand. So what's happening? Well, to tell us is Tony Bramley, Chief Executive of Shoreline Housing Partnership. Welcome, Tony. I can't believe it's been a year.
Yes, just slightly over a year since we made the announcement.
1 year on then, how many residents have you relocated?
Well, we started out with 640 households there. We're down to around about 140 or thereabouts. So we moved over 500 households so far, and we're about 80% empty now, so only 20% of the residents remain.
And that in itself is a big operation, isn't it?
It's been a massive operation for us, and it's been obviously a big operation for every household. We've been looking to see where we could rehouse them to, what their options were, helping them to move, getting them settled in their new places. So it's been a huge exercise. It's very expensive. There's a lot of money gets spent on it, but it's important we resettle people as best we can.
And have many of the people remained as your tenants, or have they gone to other places?
About 2/3 of people have remained as Shoreline tenants. Some have gone into the private rented sector, some have taken other options with them. The good news is that a big proportion have stayed within a mile or so of the towers.
Right.
We've been rehousing people locally, and I think one of the big concerns was breaking up the community on the East Marsh, and we've tried as much as we can to prevent that happening and keeping people local if that's what they wanted.
I mean, I mentioned there that the flat's about 50 years old, so I imagine you must have had some residents who have lived there probably for a good majority of those years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've certainly got some 30+ years residents there who've made their home, made a life, probably brought up a family there. So we know there's a huge emotional attachment to them. So we're very clear it's not about bricks and mortar, it's actually about people's homes, and it's very difficult for some people. Some people have been very happy to leave as quickly as possible and move on and get a very good housing option. Other people are still there, are quite concerned about what's going to happen to them.
So those that are left, I mean, what's going to happen to them now? Because at some point you have got to say you're going.
Yeah, well, we're nowhere near that point yet. Every household's got an individually appointed officer who works with them. We're looking at where we can move them to, what sort of property they'd like, how we can assist them in that move in any way we can. And hopefully, we would hope to be able to come to an agreement with all of those households ultimately, even if it takes us some time. We're still not in a massive rush. We always thought this would take us perhaps 3 years in total. We're just a year in at this stage.
Okay. And the big thing is, not long ago, a Chinese property offered was it £2.5 million,
£2.5 million
to buy them? You turned that down.
We did, yes. Yeah, some people ask why we turned the money down. Well, it wasn't quite as simple as simply taking the money and walking away from the blocks. We'd still have had to have emptied them out. They couldn't have bought it with the people living in there. So we still had the massive expense of emptying out. And of course, the question for us is, we're a very big landlord and we'll continue to have lots of houses in that area. So one of the things was, well, what are the towers going to be used for after we've sold them? Because that might affect our tenants in the area. So the board took a decision it wasn't in the long-term interest of the charity and probably not in the long-term interest of East Marsh either. So that's why we said no. If they came back with a much bigger offer, who knows what we might say, but at that value, it wasn't sensible to do it.
Worth it. So the next stage is then still demolition?
As things stand, that's absolutely right. We'll continue to empty the properties out and move people on. We estimated originally it would probably take us to the back end of 2016 or early 2017, so we're still some distance from that. At that point, we'll secure the site and we'll have been preparing then for the demolition process itself, which at the current guess would be somewhere during 2017.
And rather quickly, because we're nearly out of time, what's going to go there?
Well, that's the question everybody asks us. We've commissioned a study from experts. We'll have that back next month and be making the outcome of that public so people can have a look at it and see what they think about it.
Okay, and this is certainly a story we will continue to follow. Thank you very much for coming in, Tony. Stay with us as coming up after the break, we take a look at the new board game, which is likely to be everyone's Christmas present, and we'll bring you all the latest in the local sports news and results. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come, we take a look at the new board game, which is likely to be in everyone's Christmas stocking this year in North East Lincolnshire, and we'll have the latest local sports news and results. Now, this morning saw the launch of a game which sees landmarks and places from Grimsby and Cleethorpes feature prominently. Here's a little taster of what happened. It began with the blessing of the board before the VIPs were able to get their hands on the game, which had been under wraps for months. There had been speculation over who would bag Mayfair, and it went to Grimsby Minster, who were over the moon.
The previous parish used to be, had the Elephant and Castle had the Old Kent Road in its parish, so we've moved literally 2 squares away, just past Go, in order to get to the top spot. Moving to Grimsby means that I've moved up the board.
I think it's fantastic. I think I mentioned before when we first announced Grimsby's had a bit of a hard time over the last few years. This board is to represent the best, all of the great and the good about Grimsby and Cleethorpes. And you look at that board and you can see how beautiful it actually looks. I know I've been staying at the Burlington. I was out jogging on Cleethorpes Beach this morning, and it's so serene, it's so beautiful. I think it's important to recognise that beauty and the kindness of everybody within both towns.
And joining me now is one of the special guests of VIP, very special player, and that's George Kavanagh. George, we saw you on there collecting your board.
Yes, we did, and this is the very board
that's
here.
The board.
Now, this is the Grimsby and Cleethorpes Monopoly, and I'm so proud to own this board.
Are you?
And I've also got another board.
I would say, how come you've got 2?
Well, the thing is, I've technically got 3. There's one in the car waiting for me and Mum.
Right.
You see, I've got that one which I'm never going to open. I've got this one that I'm going to get a photo frame from. And then I've got another one that I'm going to actually play with. So
you're
that's
very
quite a few
lucky. 3 Monopoly boards. Right, George, I have to ask, you've got some signatures on here then. Who have you made sign this board today?
Well, basically, we people who have put all the effort in making this Monopoly board, and also the Vicky you saw in that video just now, and I believe Mr. Mayor signed it too. So there's quite a few signatures there.
And you're going to get this framed?
Yes, I am, yeah.
But I have to say, I cannot see Mr. Monopoly's signature on there, and we saw him in that video.
It's such a pity, and I tried to get his signature, but I think he thought that I was going to charge him for it, because I asked him for 500 Monopoly pounds. He said, "Get out of it." So, I think he was thinking that anyway.
Is that why?
He can't really speak. His mustache, because can't speak today, covers his mouth. He's like, ridiculous.
Oh, now I can tell you were very excited today. Did you enjoy it this morning?
I absolutely loved it. It was absolutely fantastic. If you didn't see me on the video, I was tickle pink. I really was. And also, do you know exactly how I won that Monopoly board?
No, go and tell us.
Well, I had to write a poem to tell the person who was organising it why I should be a VIP, a very important player.
Yeah. And
So I wrote
why
a poem.
did you win? What was
Well,
your poem?
I won because I made a poem just explaining that how I've just done nothing but fundraise ever since my dad passed away. And I've been fundraising for a charity very close to my heart, which is St Andrews. And using that poem, I won myself a little Monopoly board. So
you
really
did extremely well, didn't you, for that?
I sure did.
Now, I missed this, but did you actually get to play the first game?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, we all went onto the Ross Tiger in Grimsby, an old fishing boat, and we played it in the captain's cabin. It was truly amazing.
And who were you playing against?
I was playing against the runner-up of a competition,
Yeah.
a little girl called Jessica. She's lovely.
Yeah.
I think she's about 1 year younger than me, loves the horse riding and all that.
Yeah.
I was playing against Mr. Mayor, former skipper of the Ross Tiger. Sorry, I can't remember your name if you're watching this. And
I don't think he'll object.
Me neither. But it was an amazing day that I will never forget.
Oh, I was going to say, you've got many fab memories from this, haven't you?
Absolutely. Now, for Grimsby has a bit of a bad reputation at the moment, but that board there just gives you an idea if you are a bit like that about Grimsby. It just lets you know that Grimsby is an amazing town.
Yes.
And although some people are rumming and ahhing about it after Skint on Channel 4 and Grimsby that they filmed in Essex, stupid Essex, making Grimsby look a shame, it is an amazing town, and that's what not everyone realises. And I'm not being funny. That Monopoly board shows us how amazing the town is.
It does, and I think, George, because we're out of time now, but as well as, I know, oh well, you stay there, but as well as being an ambassador for the hospice, you should be an ambassador for Grimsby, because you did fabulous.
I bet I could replace Mr. Monopoly one of these days.
Maybe, I think you will.
Yes, I think I will. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, joining me now to look at what's been happening in the week's news, it should have been Dan Kemp, but George has stayed on because George quite likes being on the sofa.
I
don't
know,
you,
I have
George?
a little bit, and it's really cosy, and it's warm from the previous person sat here, so you know, I might as well just stay in the warm spot.
Well, exactly right, George. We've got some stories to talk about.
Yes, we sure have. The first one is a sad story about a house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's a house, but yes.
Let's have a look at this story then.
A former house of horrors dubbed as DIY landfill site has been sold at auction for over £100,000.
Wow! Now I did visit that house the other week.
You?
Because it was up on auction for £65,000. But do you know how many years of waste was
How
inside?
many?
40 years of waste.
40 years? You're kidding me.
No. They had a lot of rubbish. I hope your bedroom's not messy.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Well, the
well,
property...
I don't, luckily. Your mum does.
Oh, you should know my mum.
Does she have a go at you?
Yes, she sure does.
I bet she has trouble with you, doesn't she?
She sure does. Anyway.
So this house then, it's sold for auction £100,000.
Yes, it sure was. And the property in Parker Street in Cleethorpes was home to an estimated 40 years worth of waste, as we said, when it was cleared by a specialist council team in August 2014.
Brilliant.
As reported, the North East Lincolnshire Council community Pride Chiefs gutted it following concerns by residents under a warrant issued by Grimsby magistrates court under a Public Health Act 1936.
I think it had got a bit too bad, but somebody has now bought it and it will make a nice home for somebody, won't it? Does it actually tell us in that article who bought the house or not? Does it not mention anybody's name?
Well, no, not really, but...
Doesn't tell us.
Several tons of rubbish was cleared from the house, which had rubbish piled as high as the ceiling in some rooms. I just don't believe that terrible eyesore. And after 26 days of marketing, the hammer went down on Tuesday night. So it's been sold, which is lucky. and with a guide price of £65,000, as we said,
Exactly.
it ended up selling for £101,000. Oh my gosh.
But
I
they've
won't
got
buy
to
a house full of rubbish for that.
No, but luckily it isn't. Right, let's move on then. So next story you've got is about police cameras, isn't it?
Yes, we have.
What's this one about? Police cameras?
Well, the thing is...
Snooping in bushes, is it?
Homicide police have started hiding speed cameras in tractors and horse boxes to catch speeding cars. Traffic officers have been using the undercover method to catch high offenders travelling at over 100 miles an hour on country roads. Now, country roads can be a bit dangerous when you're driving at 100 miles an hour. I mean, they're bendy, they're curvy. The last thing you want is to be going at 100 miles an hour. The most dangerous thing in the world, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Now, this is despite guidelines from the chief officers that speed cameras should be clearly visible to the public. However, forces do not have to stick those guidelines.
Oh, so that's going to cause some
about.
people to upset. Well, I have to say, that's all we've got time for, George. Thank you for staying on and doing that role for me instead of Dan.
Oh, anytime.
Thank you very much. Right, now it's time for the sport.
Scunthorpe United remain in the League One relegation zone following their 2-1 home defeat to Walsall on Tuesday night. The Iron fell behind to the second place side after Rico Henry found the net midway through the first half, but the Iron couldn't recover. Next up for them is Fleetwood, who lost 5-1 at Gillingham last time out. Hull City's Scottish trio have all been called up for the final round of Euro 2016 qualifiers. Alan McGregor, Andy Robertson and Sean Maloney are all in Gordon Strachan's squad for the games against Poland and Gibraltar on October the 8th and 11th. Meanwhile, City boss Steve Bruce says he's happy with the way striker Abel Hernandez is performing this season. The Uruguay international failed to make his mark in the Premier League last term, but Bruce is encouraged by what he's now seeing.
You can see he's getting a little bit of confidence. You can see that he's got some nice touches. He's a finisher. What we have to get is get somebody with him now. We can't just keep relying on Abel to score. But I'm pleased that he's got 4 and 6 and he's having a little run in the team, so that'll continue.
And finally, the curtain comes down on the racing season at Beverley Westwood on Thursday. The 8-race season closer card has been transferred from Newcastle's Gosforth Park for 1 year only due to redevelopment works at the North East track. That's all for now. Don't forget to get in contact with any stories you have for us. You can call us on 01472 31553, email sport@estuary.tv or search for us on Facebook or Twitter. And that's all for the sport.
Well, that's it for tonight. Thank you to all my guests. Goodbye.
Estuary TV weather, sponsored by Grimsby Institute for a brighter future.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Another cold and misty Thursday with a foggy start and slowly lifting to be clear again during the morning. Another fine afternoon with light winds and some warm sunshine with highs of 16 degrees. Friday will be dry and settled spells of weather continuing into the weekend.
Estuary TV weather, sponsored by Grimsby Institute for a brighter future.